everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video, we're gonna go on a nail adventure together. I am not a nail tech. I usually get my nails done in non-isolation conditions, but having my nails done is something that brings me both aesthetic joy and practical use because I have my own jewelry line, so I use my hands a lot, and my nails are effectively kind of a tool for me when I craft jewelry. I've been very busy with a charity launch recently where 10% of the sales of the whole line are going to a charity called Nurse's House, which is run by nurses for nurses. And for that reason, my nails are even more of a mess now than they were when I started quarantine back in March. So we're gonna try and figure this out together. And I thought it would be fun to do, it'll be a tutorial where you see close-ups of exactly what the results look like and all of the steps that you can hopefully use if you decide to try dip powder at home. But also it should be like a fun first impressions video where we kind of screw up together and learn how to do this, and hopefully it's a system that works out for me. So I've had powder dip nails before. They've always been pretty thick, and so I actually have relatively low expectations, which I think is healthy. I've tended to get acrylic overlay in recent months, which has really damaged my nails to the point where they are kind of lumpy and have a tiny bit of residue still on the nail plate, but it's smooth, so it shouldn't cause a lumpy result for that reason today. I actually purchased two kits. One has really pretty bright colors and a glitter, and I'm really feeling a classic old Hollywood red nail right now, so I think that's probably what we're gonna do in this video, and try out this kit, which is by Model Ones. So I will link that down below. They have a lot of different kit options at various different price points as well, but I like this one because it's got a couple of pink colors, a glitter, and two red colors in it, which is a nice combination for pretty spring brights. If you want something more neutral, those can be kind of hard to find, so I found a seller on Etsy that creates her own little jars of colors, and she's very nice and offered to give my subscribers a 25% off coupon. I'm not getting any kickbacks for that whatsoever, and I thought I would just pass it along. I haven't tried this kit, so I cannot attest to whether it's any good or not, but the packaging that she does is really cute, and she has a lot of nude and pink colors, so that might be a good option if those are the kind of colors that you want. Ultimately, it's pretty hard to find a kit that has all like kind of normal colors. I feel like almost every kit I've looked at has a bit of a dud in it. What I like as well about CJ's kit is that it comes with a buffer, so I'm going to pull that out and use it to prep my nails. And then I've watched several videos that use this Model 1 kit. Seems very straightforward. The English on the manual wasn't the best, but there are a lot of really, really good YouTube tutorials filmed by nail techs that I have watched. And I think I know how this goes, so I'm pretty sure these are actually extra brushes that Model 1 gives you, which is awesome. So if you ever need to replace it because it gets kind of grotty from having different colors on it, as can happen with nail polish, then they actually give that to you, which is awesome. So here's the manual in case I forget what to do. Just gonna put that on the floor. And this little bag, if any of you guys grew up in the 90s like I did, smells like all the rubbery plastic toys that we had, and it's kind of super nostalgic. I really like it. Let's get started. So out of the powders, you will only need one. Oh, I take it back, by the way, you guys. There are two pinks, two reds, and two glitters. So that's really cool. And I'm not sure which red to do. There's 028, and then I think the other one is a little bit darker. Let's try this one, 028. I like the number 8, and it looks like it might be slightly more corally, where the other one is a bit more of a blue toned red, but it's very, very hard to tell in the jar. So expect some mess. I have an Amazon bubble mailer here that I've opened up. So it's funny because between CJ's kit, she gives you a buffer, which is useful, but then the Model 1's kit gives you a brush, which I think is very useful as well. There is a third thing that I bought to prepare myself for doing my own nails at home that I highly recommend that you get if you're either going to do gel or powder at home, and that is a removal kit that comes with these sorts of tools. So I also got the acetone and pads and the little clip-on tool to hold the soaked pad onto your nail for removing. But these cuticle pushers are so key in scraping off gel. I had such a hard time. I actually filmed a video, if you guys want to revisit it, from the beginning of lockdown where I really struggled to remove my acrylic overlay nails without any tools. So I'm really happy to have these, and I've already used them to prep my nails, to push back the cuticle and remove any little bits of skin as well, just by scraping it off that might be sticking to your nail. First step to doing any kind of nail system really is to remove the shine from your nails, but my nails are so damaged that that already is the case from the lower half onwards. So I'm only going to do the top of the nail bed, and one of the reasons I wanted to use a buffer instead of a nail file is because I am trying to regain some of the health of my nails. It is kind of this unfortunate nail experience that has made me realize that I do think they are over filing my nails at the salon, or at least I went to a salon that did that, because especially my middle finger here, I will join my index with it so I don't give you the finger, but I can see such a lump between where my nails were done and the growth since I've been able to get them done. So it's a very significant difference that is, I feel like, quite a lot more than you would need to do in order to remove the shine and kind of buff the nails to prep them for getting done, because they use those electric nail files. So in a way, I'm kind of hopeful for all of this, because if I could figure out how to do my nails at home, at least occasionally, I actually do think that it would maintain their health better. And I do think that the average person can just use normal nail polish. It unfortunately just doesn't work for me because it's too soft and leaves my nail as a whole too soft for when I'm making jewelry, to the point where sometimes they will bend back and break. And the same thing kind of happens, I think, if you cook a lot or use your hands a lot for various different purposes. Looking for just all around good nail polishes that will have a nice shine and last if you don't use your hands too much. The Deborah Lippmann kit that I got had the prettiest colors. I liked every single color. They're all neutral, and I really liked it. But as soon as I started to make jewelry every day, unfortunately, it just kind of didn't hold. This hopefully should last for a solid 2 weeks. So there are 3 steps in terms of the tubes, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So base first, and we're going to apply the color on top of the base in a few layers just to give you an overview. I kind of like to know what's coming in life. Key tip that I picked up watching videos: you can actually, if the end result is lumpy, try and fix it with a buffer or file. Then apply your activator, let that dry, and then you do a top coat, actually 2 coats of top coat according to the instructions. So let's get started. I tried to have everything that I would need handy, including some Earl Grey tea, as well as my new baby orchid, which I picked up at Trader Joe's and is just bringing me a lot of joy and smiles. Since my new line is called the Orchid collection, I thought it would be a neat little treat to myself, and it's just so dainty and cute. It's got little hair clips holding it in place so it stays straight, and I really love it. I think it's adorable. So it's going to be providing me some creative moral support. I actually don't think this is going to be that hard, but there's something a little bit daunting about, you know, having all this powdery, chemically stuff at home and trying to figure it out. Do very thin coats with powder and avoid the cuticle at all costs, because if you do end up with base coat on your cuticle, then you will end up with powder all over your cuticle as well. And another tip, which I almost did not heed, is, oh, this is sealed, great. That's actually nice. Is to make sure you have your powder ready, because you want to dip the nail into the powder immediately. So we're going to do one hand at a time, and on that hand we're also going to do one nail at a time as well. So we'll start low risk with the pinky. I feel like if you screw up your pinky fingers, it's the least noticeable. And again, I'm trying not to get too close to the cuticle, and I have pushed it back as well. and I'm also capping off each nail so that the tip of the nail gets some powder on it. So then it said 45 degrees to plunge the nail in, remove it pretty immediately, and tap off everything that kind of sticks to it. And I feel like this is going to be so much messier looking and disastrous looking because I picked a red color, but go big or go home, right? First layer, and I've heard very good reviews for this particular brand of powder dip. Is what I read is that the powder itself is very finely milled compared to other brands. So just passing that along. The underside of my nail, kind of sticking it to the skin, like sticking the nail to the skin. I think it'll be very easy to detach. I'm not worried about it, but just something to watch out for. So the precision with which you apply the base coat does really matter. It is starting to look a bit horror movie-like, but in a good, smooth-looking kind of way. I'm sure all of us have increasingly damaged hands at this stage. Mine are no exception, but I've actually added in a new hand cream into my regimen that I will show you at the end, and it's been really, really helping. So I actually layered 2 hand creams now. So the nice thing about having something to grab underneath as well as for mess control is if you end up with a lot of powder on there, you can just make a little funnel and pour it back in at the end. So I'm not too worried about mess for that reason. And then I think what you can do is just brush off any excess that's on the skin. And there's nothing sticking to the brush, so that's good. There we go, that's slightly less murderous looking. On my thumb and palm here, I think it'll probably wash off on its own, but I can always use a little bit of acetone later once the nails are finished to kind of fix that. Alright, so my ring finger here is the one where it had fused with the skin. I'm going to see if I can fix that right now with a nail file, which I can. I'm going to do another thin coat. This isn't, somehow not as time consuming at least. I'm not going to say it's not involved because I don't know what the result is going to be like, but it's not as time consuming as I thought it would be. Because I'm actually so happy I did this. I thought ahead and planned for a new clean piece of bubble wrap. So first you do the activator step and then you can fix the shape and buff them. It's much more watery and less polish like than the other one was. I want to say it almost smells a little bit like rubbing alcohol, but not quite. I'm not super familiar with how like this works, but I think this basically fuses everything together in some way that I am not sure of. I believe it says to let this dry for about 60 seconds, so we're going to be good and do that. And then I want to try and smooth things out a little bit, mainly with that ring finger on the left hand, and then there's another nail here with the index where there's a little bit of polish that's stuck to the skin, so I'm going to try and fix that with the nail file. Let's try and fix this up a little bit. So pretty much as soon as you use the nail file, it separates from the skin on the finger, so I don't want you to feel like it's going to be like a painful or gross kind of situation, because it doesn't seem to be overly hard to get them unstuck. What I'm not sure about is the fact that the top of the nail here on the ring finger is quite lumpy, and so I'm hoping I can kind of fix that so that it doesn't stay that way. This is the side of my hand with nerve damage from my accident when I was in college, so I can't really feel this finger at all. So it's not surprising to me that I would kind of mess it up, but it's not that bad. Yeah, and same thing with the ring finger. Also has a little bit of extra polish, but nothing that can't really be fixed, which is pretty awesome. Just to try and avoid a super thick result, I'm going to take my buffer and give it one final buff on every nail, just across the top. Now it's time for the top coat, which is the part that essentially reveals your results. So that's pretty exciting. It's the number 3. And it's the last product that we'll use. It says you do 2 coats and wait 30 seconds in between each coat. And I'm gonna try and make them as thin as possible. And my suspicion that this was kind of like a corally red color is now vindicated. It's kind of magical the way this final step of putting the top coat onto these rough looking nails after the powder has been put on and they've been buffed just makes them so shiny. Wow. Okay, this is quite exciting. It does look much better than I thought it would. Now it's time for top coat number 2, and I like how thin the top coat is. It doesn't feel gloopy. And my thumb, which turned out really nicely. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna wash my hands because I can still feel, especially the skin on the underside of my hand has some powder residue on it. And then I will come and show you the finished results and tell you my thoughts. This has knocked my socks off. I like this result better than the powder dip result I got when I got it done at a salon. It's got a few messy bits that a proper salon would have cleaned up, but it's very easy to just pick that off the skin. Like, it's not sticking a lot, so I mean just a couple of hand washes will get that off. But the result on the nails is pretty thin. I'm really pleased with this. It looks so good, you guys. It's not perfect, but this is the first time I've ever tried anything like this, and I think it turned out really well. By the way, I'm not surprised I was drawn to this color because I had a brainwave while I was washing my hands, which is that it is the exact color of OPI's Cajun Shrimp. If you've ever used that polish, this, I mean, I don't have a bottle of it, so I can't confirm it's exactly the same, but it's the same kind of shade as that one. So if you're wondering what my hand cream routine is, I got this Algenist hand cream, which is a collagen kind of skincare for your hands, pretty fancy hand cream. And so I use just a little bit of that on the driest parts of my hands, which tends to be the backs and the cuticles, and just kind of rub that in, let that sink in. And then to kind of protect that, then I use the Sol de Janeiro hand cream, and there's a big price difference between the two, so that's why I do that. But also the Sol de Janeiro has a lighter feel to it, so it's nice to finish with, and it also has the most wonderful smells. I found every step very straightforward, really easy to learn, and then just over time, like with everything, you know, there's a bit of a learning curve with it, but It's not a hard one, and I've heard that it's decently easy to remove as well. So I'll link everything that I mentioned in the info bar down below. Thank you so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you in my next installment. Bye.